Okay, here we are, Empowered Visionary School Leadership, Part 5. This is the last webinar in the series. You made it. Here we are. So today we're going to talk about strategy and get ready, because at the end we're going to make a plan of what you hope to do, what you plan to do, what you already are doing going forward, inspired by what you learned through this series, what resonated with you, what you decide that, yep, I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this in motion. I'm going to see how it works. I might come back and shift and change and zhuzh it, if you will, to make it better and to make it the perfect program that I hope to put into the world, right? So strategy, I get super excited about strategy, and I can't wait to share this with you today. So make sure you have your beverage close by, you've got snacks, you've got your workbook and your device to take notes on that, or your favorite pen if you're writing on that, and let's get started. Okay, here's our agenda for today. So what we're going to talk about. We'll talk about the strategic plan. So from the very beginning, we've talked about vision and mission. We've talked about how we support our staff, how we coach, and how we collaborate. We've talked about reaching out to families. We've talked about our own leadership style and what we could do better, what we already do really well. And now it's time to take a look at, okay, where do we go next? What's on the horizon? What do we want to do next? What do we want to see happen, right? So we're going to talk about that strategic plan. We're also to inform us of our strategic plan, it's important to take a look at what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, are there opportunities, and what are threats that we may be aware of or may not be aware of. Okay, so we'll have some time to kind of dissect those a little. And then, what about you? When we show up as leaders, it's a big job. And I'm here to say that self-care is important. And first, we must remember that we are worthy of that self-care, right? So self-compassion comes before self-care, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about cultivating that practice for yourself so that you can remain fresh and ready and don't find yourself in a place of burnout and you're ready to quit and give up, right? That's not what you want. That's not what anybody wants. So we'll talk a little bit about what you can do to endure, to carry on with happiness and contentment and a sense of connection to your own purpose, to the work that you do, and showing up as a leader who is visionary for the people that you lead and the people that you serve. So that's a big one, huh? Okay, let's keep going. Okay, strategic planning, what is that? It's setting goals and making a plan, right? So we've talked about some tools that you can use to help articulate and get clear about what your goals are, to figure out what's step 1, what's step 2, and what's step 3. What's priority 1, priority 2, priority 3. Those are helpful tools in helping you make a plan so that you can achieve the goals that you've decided that you want to create. Know that when you hear me say you, I mean that you as a community, the importance of collaborating and working alongside the people that you work is different from them working for you, right? So you're not alone, you're not a silo, but you are reaching out and tapping into the brilliance of the people that are surrounding you, the people that you've had a hand in working alongside or selecting to come work alongside you. All right, so let's talk about goals and making a plan, right? Okay, remember this? You might want to flip back some pages and go back to your mission and vision and core values. What did you decide that those are? So if you need to pause and go back and just kind of put that in your brain right now, the next few steps are going to lean heavily on that, okay? So let's keep going. You'll also remember this one, right? Our good friend Simon Sinek, who talked about your why. What is your why? Why is it that you do what you do, right? So it could be that you want to pause and go back to that and refresh your memory of what is your why? How do you do what you do? Why do you do it? How are these related and connected? Okay, so if you had to go away refresh your memory and come back. Welcome back. But here's something I would like to share with you about some elements of your strategic plan, right? A strategic plan is easy to daunt you, to overwhelm you. When you think a strategic plan, you might think, oh, we're going to hire a consultant for thousands and thousands of dollars over a period of time, over a year, to put into play a strategic plan. That's one way to do it, yes. And the first few steps are something that you can do right now during the time that you're taking this webinar, right? So let's get into what are the 7 elements of a strategic plan so you can start to plot out what your plan is to reach into your strategic plan. You see what I'm saying? Okay, so let's start here. We're going to start with our mission statement. What is it that you're about, right? What are your core beliefs? What is your school about? What sets you apart from other schools and other programs? Okay. Another element of your strategic plan is your core values, right? What are those words that describe what it is that you do? What is it that you can go back to and say, is this decision respectful? Is it compassionate? Is it visionary? Is it whatever the words that you've selected to be at your core, your values at your core, right? I'm going to go backwards on this slide so you'll see vision statement. That's another element of your strategic plan. What is your vision? Where do you see yourself going? What's on your horizon? Yeah. Next is your goals. So what are your short-term goals and what are your long-term goals, right? So we've set some goals. Remember, we talked about priorities and all of that? Yeah, so you've done some of that work already. You've got some goals that may be short-term, and you may have some that are bigger and that are more long-term. Have you broken those down into smaller bite-sized chunks so that you feel like, okay, I've got this. I'm not daunted. I'm not overwhelmed because I can take one piece at a time. I've decided what piece comes first, second, and third so that I can continue on so that I reach that long-term goal, right? So you've got short-term goals that help you reach to that long-term goal. Okay, next, have you articulated your yearly objectives? What is that? What do you plan to do? Those are some goals and similar to goals, but they're different because what is your objective for yourself as your own person, right? That you hold yourself accountable for, and does your team have objectives as well, right? So that's that piece. And then another piece, another element of the strategic plan is your action plan. So that's informed by your yearly objectives and long-term goals, which are informed by your vision, your mission, and your core values. But what are you going to do is the action plan. What is this is what I'm going to do. This is the call I'm going to make. This is the document I'm going to edit. This is the communication I'm going to have. This is how I'm going to communicate that, right? So what is the boots on the ground? What are you going to do specifically, right? And the last element of a strategic plan is the SWOT analysis, right? This is one way to take a look at your strategic plan and determine where are the places that you want to shine a spotlight. Where do you want to put your attention and have communication and collaboration and make some decisions alongside your team and your community. So you may be aware and familiar with SWOT analysis, but for now, let's just do a brief overview of what that is. It's one tool that you can use in creating your strategic plan, okay? So it goes like this. So SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, okay? Once you determine what are our strengths, where are the places we need to grow, where are our weaknesses, where are our opportunities to grow and get better and better every day, every year, and are there threats that are going to get in our way and keep us from achieving the goals, the long-term and short-term goals of your program, right? So let's get specific about strengths. What are your strengths, right? I encourage you in just a minute, we're going to have some time to write this out. But as I'm describing what is strengths, your mind will probably begin to think about what are the strengths of your program. Same with weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So in a moment, there'll be time to pause and write about that and actually put it on paper, what these specific pieces are for your individual program. Okay, so strengths are just that. They apply to what you excel at. What is that? Where does the talent lie in your program? And that could be people, it could be program, it could be approach. What is it that makes your program stand out above other programs, right? Now, next, you want to take a look at weaknesses. So weaknesses are the places that prevent you from getting to be the best program that you can be, right? So the places where you might need additional training or you might need some additional resources. Weaknesses are what keep you from achieving the potential that you know you have, you know your program has, right? Now, opportunities. What are those? So opportunities can refer to external factors. Maybe it's funding resources that are out there that might be an opportunity to strengthen your program, or it could be people, or it could be, what are those opportunities that are out there that you haven't yet tapped into that can strengthen your program, that can address the weaknesses that you may have? All right. Okay, so threats are just that. So threats can be either internal or external. And those are those things that compromise what your program sets out to do. Right. So as we're getting into this, I'd like for you to take a deep breath and give yourself permission to be bold and to be vulnerable and to be honest and open with what you believe to be your program's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, right? I encourage you, if you want to, pause and have this conversation with someone that you work closely with, or another person, maybe a co-director or co-leader, or if you have a board of directors. This might be a really interesting conversation to have, right? This is often a process that many consultants who come in to assist an organization or a school in creating their strategic plan, often you can begin with, this is one of the first steps, right? May not be the very first steps, but it's important to know, okay, what do we have in our pocket? What do we need to grow? What do we need to address and grow and strengthen? And are there opportunities that maybe we haven't even thought about yet, right? And are there threats that maybe we're aware of, maybe we're not aware of? But in community, we can be honest about, that is getting in our way, right? I've noticed in some schools that I've worked with, when we've been talking about threats, sometimes a threat can be a surprise, right? Maybe you don't realize it to be a threat until you start really taking a look at it, right? It could be the threat of your retention rate could be a threat. So how can I address retaining people, retaining really good talent, good teachers, good educators and teaching teams, right? So when they come as a surprise, just know, take a deep breath, know that you can address them, because you've got what? You've got a whole section of strengths that you can tap into. The brilliance of the people who are on your team already, and the people who maybe haven't joined your team already, right? Okay, so now's the time to pause and put pen to paper or fingers on your keyboard to get these thoughts down. Okay, so push pause, and when you're ready to come on back, come on back. But here is the invitation, right? So we're gonna do it. We're gonna do this SWOT analysis. Super brief, kind of first blush, first paintings, first streaks of paint on the canvas to get your thoughts together. This is something that I recommend that you do with your larger team, okay? So here it is for you. So we're gonna take a pause and just make a list of what would you consider to be the strengths of your program? What would you consider to be weaknesses, areas of growth, right? Possibilities, we need to tend to that so we can strengthen that which is weak at this point. Next, what are some opportunities that maybe you've put on the back burner, or you forgot about, or you're remembering it again from something you heard before, right? Are there organizations and community connections that you thought about in the last webinar that are your opportunities? So maybe you flip back a few pages and put those here under your opportunities. And then the fourth is threats. What do you see as threats right now to your program soaring higher than it is now? Okay, so take a moment and we'll have a pause and come on back when you're ready. Okay, we're back. Deep breath. Now, self-care and wellness. You heard me talk just a little bit earlier about the importance of self-compassion coming before self-care. We have to believe that we are worth the self-care, or all of the self-care that we do doesn't have the impact that it could, right? So let's talk a little bit about this, right? So I'm going to lean heavily on the work of Brené Brown, right? If you know me, you know I love me some Brené Brown. And in particular, her work around her guideposts for wholehearted living, right? So let's go through them one by one. So number one in her guideposts for wholehearted living is cultivating authenticity, right? Let go of what people think. And that could be really hard. So when we talked earlier about the 4 agreements and not taking things personally, I'm reminded of that when I'm thinking about this particular guidepost, right? Letting go of what people think. What is what is it that I'm taking personally, right? Sometimes that can get in our way of stepping into our authenticity, right? To showing up with our full strengths on display in action to support the program that we are there to create and to cultivate and to lead, right? So some questions to consider is, what secret superpower do you hold? What is a skill that you have that maybe other people don't know about, right? Are you a baby whisperer? You know, can you get any child to go to sleep in a nap room, right? Is that your skill? Are you the person who can hide veggies in a marinara sauce? Those of you who've had toddlers might know what I'm talking about. How can you, is that your superpower? Are you an incredible cook? Are you somebody who others lean to or ask for help with children who have really bothersome, difficult, struggling behaviors in the classroom? Is that your superpower? Do you have an uncanny sense of rhythm? Are you the first person to pick up the microphone on karaoke night? Right. So think outside of your classroom or outside of your school program, right? What is it that you do really well? And when you step into that, you feel like, yes, this is me. This is the full expression of who I am authentically. So I invite you to pause and journal about that, write about that. What is your superpower? How do you step into, and how do you into your authenticity by sharing that superpower with the people around you and with the program that you serve? So pause a button and come on back when you're finished. Okay, number 2, cultivating self-compassion. Feels like it's coming up quite a bit, huh? So let's talk about that. So cultivating self-compassion is letting go of that perfectionism, right? You may have heard me talk about the idea of being friendly with error. When you make a mistake, that's where learning happens, right? When you're taking a hula hoop class and you drop your hula hoop, well, the next time you pick it up, you spin it in a way that you're going to be less likely to drop it. It takes rehearsal, it takes practice to get it. But when we can let go of that perfectionism and we can continue to grow and be tenacious and not stop when something gets hard, that's important, right? Okay. So getting back to the clarity of this message, the cultivating self-compassion. When we make a mistake, Are we okay with that? Can we make a mistake and go, oh, I'm human, right? In addition to that, what is it on your big to-do list that can wait? If you find yourself at the end of a day or a week or a month that has just been a day or a week or a month, is there something that can wait? The dishes in the sink, that particular document that you need to edit, that particular observation that is important to have, right? Do you really have to do some of the things that are on your list? Is it something that you can delegate or not, right? And I added here, spell check is your friend. So be compassionate to yourself. If you're not the best speller in the world, that's me. So I put this on there kind of like for me. I've learned spell check is really helpful in my growth and my journey towards self-compassion. So what is it that you can do to be more self-compassionate so that when you do your self-care, it really has the impact that you want it to have? Okay, so pause here, right? And I'll give you some time to write. And when you're done, come on back. All right, number 3, cultivating a resilient spirit, letting go of numbing and powerlessness, right? So let's consider, where is it that you freeze up, right? Is it having those difficult conversations? Is it moving forward with a goal that you have in mind? Where is it that you freeze? Is it an intimidating parent or a colleague? Is it the bureaucracy of systems and guidelines and rules that are outside of your power and control, right? It might be the pile of papers that you need to tend to, or bills or expectations, or guidelines that are really difficult for your program to keep in place, right? So cultivating a resilient spirit helps us remember that when we make a mistake, connected to our second guidepost, do we numb and freeze? Or do we remember that we are resilient and that we could do things that are hard? Sometimes we don't want to, but we know that we can. So we can do the self-compassionate thing and pause, refuel, and re-energize ourselves so that we can get up again. We are resilient. So if you need to pause, put your thoughts down about this, please do that and come back when you're ready. Okay, number 4, this one is about gratitude and joy. So this is letting go of scarcity and letting go of the fear of the dark. All right. So what is it that makes your heart soar? Is it those tiny little Johnny jump ups that grow in the cracks of the sidewalk? That's mine. What are the small things that make you go, ah, right? The idea of joy being an emotion that is unexpected and intense, and you feel that whoosh of happiness, right? Think about those are moments of joy. And how do you cultivate more of those moments of joy? And often when you feel joyful, gratitude follows, right? So when you have and experience those moments of joy, how do you experience gratitude? How do you extend gratitude? Right? So take a moment and pause and write down, what is it that makes your heart soar? Is it nature? Is it creativity? Is it beauty? Is it accomplishment? And then give yourself some time to consider, how can I make more of that happen in my life? How can I go on a walk and search for those Johnny jump ups growing in the cracks? Can I plant seeds in the cracks to see what comes up, right? Everybody's going to have their own individual list of ideas that bring you joy, right? How do you find time for more of those, even moment to moment throughout your day? Perhaps you set an alarm on your phone that reminds you at the top of the hour to take a deep breath and seek out something that brings you just a burst of joy, right? So you can find your own way to cultivate more moments of joy and more expressions of gratitude in your day. Okay, so pause, write that down, make your plan, and come back when you're ready. Okay, number 5, cultivating intuition and trusting your faith, right? So this is letting go of our need for certainty. And that can be harder for some of us than others, right? We want to know that this is going to happen, then this is going to happen, then I anticipate this happening afterwards. That feels really good and solid for a lot of us, right? Well, a guidepost for wholehearted living is realizing that that certainty doesn't exist, right? So how do I cultivate my own intuition and my own faith and belief that things will work out, right? Yes, it may take some work on our part, but a belief that all is not lost. Okay, so cultivating intuition and trusting your faith. When is your intuition at an all-time high? What activates your spidey senses, right? And it could be that it's a time of day that you think, okay, now is the time of day when I'm going to hear children in that particular classroom fall apart, right? So it could be that, your spidey senses are finely tuned when something is happening, when something's brewing, right? Spidey senses, I think we all have it. Okay. And the next thing to consider is your own limit for the unknown. How comfortable are you with not knowing the answer? I have on here, wait, wait, wait. There's a story that goes with that. There was a person, a consultant who came to our school and observed in a classroom that was having some particular difficulties, right? And so the observer came in and noticed that the lead teacher was in constant motion, was going from here to there, to here, to there, to here, to there, nonstop, right? So the children weren't weren't given the space to have a spill or to make a mistake, right? So the teacher was going around keeping that from happening with the best of intentions, right? However, what was happening is the children in the classroom weren't developing that sense of, oh, I can make a mistake and I can fix it. I could spill that water and I could wipe it up. I could drop that tray. It's okay. My friends come and help me pick up all the beads, right? So the feedback this observer gave this particular teacher was to sit down. And that was so hard for her to do because there was an intense desire to make sure that there wasn't a spill or there wasn't a great deal of struggle, right? So the instruction was to sit down, and of course, if it was a safety thing, you'd get up and go. But if you have to sit on your hands, sit on your hands. And when you see a child moving from one area to another, and they're carrying a pitcher of water or they're carrying their milk cup that's really full, right? And you think to yourself, that's going to fall, that's going to be a spill, and there's going to be milk on the carpet and it's going to smell. And so we go to that place that's could not be true. Have you ever done that? Where you anticipate that things are going to be a disaster and then either they are a disaster and you could say, yep, see, I told you so. Or you think it's going to happen and then it doesn't happen. What a relief. Okay, so back to the story. So the instruction was to sit on your hands if you need to, but go sit down. And when you see a child struggling, wait, wait, wait. And in that time that you wait, 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 you're developing your sense of intuition and you're practicing your ability to trust and have faith, right? The water may spill, the milk may spill, the paint may be all over the front of their dress or their shirt or their outfit. And it's okay. If it's a safety thing, yes, you're going to get up and go, right? But cultivating that intuition and trusting faith can be a practice that you can put into practice more and more with the decision to do so. Does that make sense? Right? So we first must decide that you're going to cultivate your own intuition and you're going to cultivate your ability to trust and have faith. Again, if it's a safety thing, yes, you're going to get up and not sit on your hands. But when there's struggle, get up and go. Now, that is a story that has to do with children. But what about the adults that you lead, right? Do you find that as a leader, do you step in really quickly when sometimes you weren't even invited or asked to help, right? Sometimes it might be that you see a teacher or somebody on your teaching team that's really struggling. And if you wait and wait and wait, that struggle will result in deep learning for that person, right? Again, if it's a safety thing, yeah, you're going to jump in. But if it's uncomfortable or kind of messy, then wait, wait, wait. When we do those things with children and with adults, we're cultivating the guidepost of having a deeper sense of believing that others can do well and that situations can unfold in a way that can be positive. All right. So pause for a moment, and here's the writing. Think about, when is your intuition at an all-time high? What activates your spidey senses, and what is your limit for the unknown? And have you ever practiced? Wait, wait, wait. Okay, so pause, come back when you're ready. Okay, we're back. Deep breath. Now we're going on to number 6, the guidepost for wholehearted living. Thanks, Brene Brown. So here it is. Number 6 is cultivating creativity, letting go of comparison. So what have you created in this past week? Can you make something from nothing? What inspires you to push yourself creatively, and who inspires your creativity? Make time to be with that person. And the importance of creating something and making something out of either nothing or making something of beauty. You don't have to be a full-fledged, I've taken lessons, I've got a master's degree in fine arts to be creative, right? I like to remind people that we are innately creative, because get this, when you get a scratch on your hand, for the most part, it will heal in a short amount of time, right? Our hair grows, our fingernails grow, right? So our body is constantly creating new hair, new fingernails, new skin to heal a scratch. We're also creating energy from the food that we eat. So we're innately creative beings. So when somebody says, "Are you creative?" you could say, "Yes. Look at my fingernails. Look at my hair." Right? No. You can think about that in your own mind to remind yourself that every human is innately creative, and that includes you. So think about, what have you created this past week? You've created some hair, some fingernails, but what else have you created that has an impact on the world? Give yourself some credit for the things that you do that others might find creative. And you can call yourself creative. All right? So pause now and write down that person. Remember, don't forget to write down who inspires you to be creative, who could inspire you to be more creative, and then make some time to hang out with that person and be with that person. All right, so pause, and when you're ready, come on back. All right, we're back. Number 7, we're almost there. Cultivate play and rest. Okay, let go of exhaustion as a status symbol and productivity as self-work. I think I mentioned this in the webinar earlier, the idea of, well, I just do one more thing. I've got a list of things to do. I'm just going to send that email. I'm going to finish that. I'm going to button that up. I'm going to finish that before I go home. Has anybody ever done that? Yeah. Well, let's take a look at that. And let's take a look at the times when we've heard ourselves or others say, "Oh, I only slept 3 hours last night," or "I haven't had a day off in weeks," or "I met with all of my families last week. Oh yeah, you worked, well, I worked 50 hours plus every week. Okay. Now, that could be a bid for others to see that we work hard. But let's just take a look at that. When we don't cultivate play and rest, and we hear ourselves saying all of these things, we're well on our way to burnout, right? When we find ourselves saying those kinds of things as a status symbol of, oh, look how hard I work, and I work harder than others, let's take a look at that and consider saying something different. How would it shift and change if you found yourself saying, I got full night of sleep last night. I had the best meal last night. I'm gonna take next Friday off, right? I met with some of my families this week. I'll get to the others next week, right? That when you're in a position of leadership, that cultivates and gives others and inspires others to cultivate their own play and rest. Knowing, that our teachers need a full day of sleep, right? They need time off to recharge and come back and be there 100%, right? It's so difficult to meet with families, all of them all at one time. What's reasonable, right? So that the people that we lead are rested, that they have a sense of play and happiness and joy woven into the life that they lead. And when we're cultivating our own wholehearted living, we can role model that. So take a moment and pause and write down, when have you last played? When have you last really rested? Okay, so take some time, pause, come on back when you're finished. Okay, number 8, we're just trucking right along. Number 8 is cultivating calm and stillness, letting go of anxiety as a lifestyle. Okay, now we're all different. Some of us may be more prone to feeling anxious or living with anxiety or living with something that that makes this particular guidepost more difficult, right? So realize and recognize this as a practice, right? Where are the moments when you can practice calm and stillness? What tools can you use? I'm thinking of, what do you do to self-regulate, right? Is it taking a deep breath? Is it taking a deep breath? Is it drinking water? Is it having a warm cup of tea? Is it insert what it is that you do to self-regulate when you are going sideways yourself? That is a tool that you can use to cultivate your calm and stillness, okay? So think back on what that is, and let's write that down. Putting it on paper helps us remember, this is what I can do to cultivate calm and stillness and fill into number 8 of the guideposts of wholehearted living. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so pause right now, write down what it is that you do, and bonus, to write down, when do you plan to do it next? What's your plan? Okay, so do that, pause, and come back when you're finished. And now we're at number 9, cultivating meaningful work. Okay, this is letting go of self-doubt and, oh, I'm supposed to do whatever, right? So when we think about our meaningful work, we can always think about, wait a minute, how much do I get paid again? It helps us to remember, why is it that we're doing the work that we're doing? Let's go back to Simon Sinek's idea of finding your why, right? So when we can get to our why, that helps us understand how we can do things possibly differently to find more meaning in the work that we do. Who says that we have to do something in this particular way? Can it be done differently? What would it look like, right? What are your known best practices, right? What are your known practices, the things that you do, the processes that you create, the work that you do day to day that you can look at and say, yes, this has impact. And a tricky thing to do is to take a look at those practices that we do day to day to day and evaluate and reevaluate. Is this making an impact, or is this busy work that's not necessary? That takes a lot of self-reflection and honesty, and it's really helpful to have a colleague to help you examine that, right? Do you have someone that maybe you can have a partnership with and go through this together? What does your day-to-day look like? What brings meaning to you and your work? Is this task and this task and this task, is that supporting and leaning into making an impact, right? Supporting the mission, supporting the vision, supporting your core values. Some things, some tasks can be more difficult to figure out. How does this have an impact again? I'm unclogging a toilet. Again, how does that have an impact on the work that we do? How does this have an impact of a program that supports each child in their joyful quest of, your mission? That could be a really interesting exercise to really evaluate and consider, how does this connect, right? So take a moment now and write down some of those things that you see in your work day to day to day. Bonus extra credit if you can articulate how does that particular task that you do a lot or frequently, how does that relate and have an impact on the work that you do serving children and families. Okay, so pause. When you're done, come on back. Okay, 10. Oh, there are 10. I got mixed up. Here's the 10th guidepost. Cultivate laughter, song, and dance. Let go of being cool and always in control. So the big question for you right now is, did you laugh today? Maybe you're in your pajamas watching this webinar, or you're at your desk, or wherever, or you're on your walk. Have you laughed today? What makes you laugh? What brings in a good belly laugh? And when are you going to do that if you haven't done it today, right? When? Like today, before the end of the day. Next, what is your boogie tune? What is a song that comes on your playlist, on your radio, the one that you put on your record player, or you turn it on and you can't help but move or dance or sway or stand up and get on the dance floor? What is that song for you? Okay. And next, what's your signature move? Right? If you got on the dance floor at a party or at a wedding or in your living room, what is the move that you do that people would say, yep, that's Amy. That's you. What is your signature move? So this guidepost of laughter, of song and dance is just as important as all the other ones, right? You don't have to have dance classes or a degree in dance or music or comedy to enjoy and cultivate laughter, song, and dance. Put your fingers on your wrist right now. Do you feel your pulse? Or here, do you feel your pulse? Got it? All right. You're human. You have a heartbeat. You innately have rhythm. So we are innately creative beings, and we are innately rhythmic beings as well. So if you heard yourself say, oh, I'm not rhythmic, I don't have a sense of rhythm, you have a heartbeat. So yes, I'm here to tell you, yes, you do. There's my dance therapist coming out. Okay, so if you were if the 10 guideposts for wholehearted living inspired you, there's a poster that you can get, and it looks like this. So you just go to the Brene Brown website and you can get your own to put up in your office or in your program to help others that you lead remember, what am I cultivating? What guideposts can I step into to live more wholeheartedly? When you role model that wholehearted living, you're showing up to your work in your full self wholeheartedly, that is a powerful visionary practice that has a huge impact to the community that you serve. So consider, what can you do? Maybe you want to choose 1 or 2 or 3 to get started on. if these are new and unfamiliar for you right now. And then maybe another one the next week and another one the next week, and see how things shift and change. All right. More from Brene Brown. She speaks about leadership and some 4 elements that are powerful and important to remember as all of us lean into becoming more visionary leaders, right? So here's number 1. It's important for visionary leaders to have the ability to rumble with vulnerability, right? Don't tap out when things get hard, that you stay in and you work even when it's difficult, because we know we can do hard things and that we have skills and we have people around us who can help us and work with us. The next one is to live into your values, to check in again and again and again. Does this decision, does this thought, does this what's coming out of my mouth support what I say are my personal values? The next important quality of a leader is the ability to build trust. So you say what you mean and you mean what you say. You're impeccable with your word. This reminds me of the 4 agreements, right? And you build those trusting relationships with the people that you serve, the adults, families, and children. And the next important quality of a leader is to know how to reset and to forgive yourself when you fail, when you find yourself disappointed or you feel disappointment or you experience setbacks. So pause right now and just let that wash over you. Give some writing around this, put some writing down. What do you think about this? Are there one of these or 2 of these qualities that you would like to work on in the coming weeks or so? Okay, take a deep breath. Okay, we're at the end of the final episode of the entire webinar. So now, what is your plan? What is your one thing that you plan to do in the coming weeks? Right? It might be that you have to flip back through your notebook and think, oh, okay, episode 1, we talked about this. Episode 2, we talked about this. What is that one thing that you plan to do in the coming weeks? My guess is you'll probably have several things that you plan to do, right? But let's start with 1, right? Okay, so what's your one thing you plan to do? And what is your big takeaway? What is something that you heard over the series of webinars that maybe was unexpected or you weren't sure about and you had to think about and you're still like, well, I don't know about that, Amy. What is your big takeaway? So pause, give yourself some time to write this down, putting pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, writing down what is your intention helps us hold ourselves accountable, right? And it deepens our learning too. Okay, now you're back. Wanted to let everybody know that I have a journal, a workbook that I've created for educators based on and inspired by many, many, many conversations with school leaders and educators. And I noticed I was sharing the same tools over and over again, and I was sharing the same information over and over again, and I was asking the same questions over and over again. So I decided to put it in a book. So this is it's called The Spark, a creative adventure for teachers. It's a journal with lots of writing prompts, different from the writing prompts we've had over the seminar. And it's packed with tools that you can make copies of and use in your work with children in the classroom, in your work with colleagues, your work for yourself, and your work with families. So there are 4 different sections. Okay. So check it out. You can find it on amywilliamsacademy.com, and you go to the button that says books and you click there, and that'll take you to my author page on Amazon, and you can get your copy. So you can get a digital copy and you can get a hard copy if you like to put pen to paper. So feel free, you reach out to me. I have author copies available too. Happy to make those available to you and of course to your team. I want to say thank you for joining me. It was a huge sacrifice to give so much of your time for learning over all these webinars. It was a lot of time, y'all. And I know it took a lot of brain power and a lot of hard work to answer all of those questions, and to pause and be reflective and to think, what do I do now? How do I want to do? How do I want to do going forward? What do I want to do differently? How can I step into being a visionary leader for the people that I serve and the program that I'm working with? Right. So I want to say thank you so much for that. Here are the places where you can find and follow me on Instagram, Facebook. My email is here, amywilliamsacademy@gmail.com. And there's my website, amywilliamsacademy.com. So until next time, you got this. Feel free to reach out anytime if you have any questions, or you want a coaching call, or you want to work something through and run something by me. Happy to be that person who is in your corner, who could be on your square squad to help you be the visionary leader that you want to be. So until next time, you got this.